Welcome to Road to Billions Podcast, the mentality of an entrepreneur. With your host, Moise Bertrand.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Moise Bertrand, your host of Road2Billions Podcast, and I'm excited because I bought my first rental property, real estate, definitely. I know a lot of people have been asking me, hey, how did you get in real estate? Et cetera, tons of questions. And, your questions are finally answered, people. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you guys to take a second to do one thing before you listen to the rest of the podcast. Share it, rate it, and, review it. And, listen to the other rest of the episodes and be sure to subscribe. So this podcast is pretty much going to give you guys the details about how did we get into real estate, frequently asked questions, what are some things you need to know about real estate, and all the 9 yards. So sit back, listen, fasten your seatbelts, and be ready to go on a crazy roller coaster of plethora, number of knowledge and information is being dispersed. I love you guys so much. Have a great rest of the podcast. So one of the questions, I didn't post the questions on Instagram, but so this one girl was like, what's the cheapest that she could buy into real estate? So what's the cheapest that, real estate could go for? I guess she's asking.
Yeah, so the cheapest you can buy real estate is zero. Just depending on the seller and what they're willing to sell it for. So if you find a seller who's willing to finance 100% of the purchase price, then the answer could be zero. But traditionally, the answer to that question would be 3%, anywhere from 3% to 10% of the purchase price of the property is probably the least amount of money that you can use to get started in a real estate deal. So you have to, it's a variable question depending on where you live. So if you live in a place where houses are, let's say 100,000, then 3% of that is 3,000. If you live in a place where houses are 200,000, then that would be 6,000. So it really just depends on the prices of homes, but anywhere from 3 to 10% will be the standard answer to that question.
Okay. Yeah. And some other person, some guy, he asked, can anyone invest? So I know you answered that at the beginning, but you could probably go over that again one next time. Can anyone invest?
Anyone can invest in real estate, just depending on, if you're ready or not. So can anyone invest? Yes. Should anyone invest? No. It's only right when it's right for you. I was telling somebody that this morning when we was going over a deal. I told him about a deal I bought recently, and he was like, man, I wish I could have got that deal, this, that, and the other. I was like, well, look, man, a deal's only a good deal when you're ready.
Yeah.
Because a good deal can become a bad deal if you ain't ready for it. So, there's a lot of variables depending on if you're ready or not.
So what do you think is the best way for someone who's not knowledgeable about real estate? Say, for example, no one don't have any mentor, right? They're just not in the right place to do anything. And then they want to essentially get into real estate. What do you think their first step is to actually get into real estate? What's that first initial thought?
Yeah, I mean, so I would try to shadow someone if you could. Definitely read books. So read as many books as you can, listen to as many podcasts. They used to tell us when I was in grad school, they said to become an expert on something, you have to read 20 books, right? So let's modernize that to nowadays and say at least watch 20 YouTube videos or 20 podcasts on real estate.
Yeah.
And I think after about 20 podcasts or 20, reasonable YouTube videos, I think after that you'll be ready to at least have a good understanding of real estate.
AJ, what you think?
Yeah, and I was just to add to that, because I mean, technically that was me prior to, getting in touch with Chris Daniels. So it's more so similar to what he said, just, reading books. I started with Grant Cardone. That's he was like my mentor, but he didn't know nothing about, he never knew me. But I think reading books and just being curious, right? Asking questions, not being afraid to ask questions. Maybe not to people you may not know, but maybe, like similar to what we're doing here, like, there's opportunities on social media, like you said, YouTube podcasts, to ask those questions. So, going above and beyond, just trying to figure out, how can I get involved?
Yeah.
I think that's the best way. Like anything though, right? You want to go, when you want to plan a trip to Ghana, you can do and you don't have any resource, you're going to do everything possible, to get those resources to go on that trip. So little things like that.
So what do you think is the biggest problem we'll have when it comes to real estate? Like, first thing
is that they think about it the wrong way. The number one problem that people that I see is people thinking about the wrong way is they always think about what they have, not what they can get. Right? So they say, okay, I don't have money. Well, shit, you can go get money. You know what I'm saying? Like that doesn't, you don't necessarily have to have the money. A lot of nobody has enough money, right? You look at these big old skyscrapers. The people who built them, they didn't have the money for it. They went and got it from somebody else. So that's the number one thing. Everyone stops at that point and they're like, I don't have any money. I can't get into real estate. And it's just that mentality that stops people from ever getting started. And that's just the wrong way to think about it, right? You need to know what you're doing. If you can find deals, if you know what you're talking about, you will be able to find money. And I think that's what most people don't realize is that they think of things backwards.
Right.
So they think of money first instead of thinking of deals first. And if you think deals first, then money will come. So I think if you're changing your mindset will help you a lot.
Yeah, I think, and I'll put this back to you, Mo, after me, but I think it's just a misconception that you've got to have the capital. Like you said, like that was like my first thing. I'm like, when I get the capital, I'm going to get my first property, right? Then through mentorship and learning and understanding, Chris always said, control the property. Like I used to say that a lot. I didn't understand what that meant. Right. Had the property under control. And that's not, this is when we wasn't even talking numbers. He said, just, understanding the steps to the first process of, purchasing a property, understanding that first layer is important. So I think it's just a misconception about money.
Yeah. I feel like it's not talked about too much. It's the Chinese proverb talking about, if you're not talking about money, you're not bringing that wealth into your life. Like people who are scared of talking about money, they usually, obviously don't have as much, and they like this encourage people to speak as much about money. And I feel like a lot of big things that people like have a problem with are just asking for help. Like people are like really prideful to a point where you could have $500 to your name, but you really need your rent. Your rent is $800, and you rather let someone reach out to you, and you finally, I feel like we as a culture have to really just start looking out for people, and at the same time looking to connect with people at the same time. Because there's no point in me knowing Mr. Daniels if I can't benefit from him, he can't benefit from me. And the mutual exchange is that we're both helping each other succeed in life. And I feel like if me and you, AJ, we work only on one project, Mr. Daniels is still there to cater to us, and he's adding value to our life, and we're still there helping him. So I feel like the culture needs people who actually are going to take initiative and actually don't be afraid to ask for help. That's a big question right there. Why are people afraid to ask for help?
Right. I mean, it's because a lot of people are jerks, to be honest. For me, I'm a professor, so I'm used to people asking me questions. Yeah. But a lot of people don't like to be asked questions, or they'll demean you for asking them a question. Right. So like if someone if someone for example, somebody asked me like, what is like APR or what is like some like real estate terminology that's, for some people considered to be basic. They're like, you don't know what that is. And like, instead of just answering the question, and I think that's what turns people off to being curious, is that when people's reaction to your question. So, people who have been in real estate for a long time, like for example, I'm in a group, a Facebook group with a bunch of real estate investors, like big time investors. And when people post questions in there, sometimes people are really jerks. They're like, oh, you don't know that. Why don't you just Google it yourself? And then other people are like, they just answer the question. So, finding someone who responds well to your questions helps you to get a mentor, right? So people who don't mind asking questions. So the way you can find those type of people are usually people who go and give talks publicly, right? So people who like speak on Instagram or speak on YouTube or in-person events and things like that. those are people who usually don't mind being asked questions and won't look down on you for asking questions.
Yeah.
Some people who are already like really advanced and then they're not like teachers, you know what I'm saying? That's a whole different skill. It's one thing to be good at something, it's another thing to be a teacher. Those are two different kind of skill sets, right? Some people are blessed to have both, but most people aren't. So, you know, you might DM someone who's like a multi-millionaire, but they don't have like the skills to actually teach you. So they can't really help you that much. You see what I'm saying? And what you'll see is that funny thing about real estate is like most of the most successful people in real estate aren't like the gurus that you see like on YouTube and stuff like that. Those are the ones who made a decision that they want to teach people and help people.
Yeah.
But there's the people who are really, really, really good at real estate. They usually ain't teaching nobody, you know what I'm saying? That's not their thing, you know? So it's just a different skill set.
Yeah. I feel like numbers are like when, you know, making this first property purchase, I know we was looking at the numbers like, oh shit, like this is, how can you fathom to put your mind around this? And then you just see how it could grow. Like the portfolio was like possible, like, and I feel like a lot of people, they just have to get exposed to it and just taking that first step.
So I mean, just think about it. I don't know if we want to go on specifics of numbers, but we'll just be generalized here. You know, if you can do four more properties of similar value, you already have $1 million portfolio.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about that. I mean, you did one. How easy would it be to do 4 more of those? I mean, it's, you know, especially once you done did one. So now you're already a millionaire, right? Just like that, off of 4 transactions. That wasn't even that hard after we went through the process, right? So what I'm saying is there's very few businesses or industries where you can accumulate that type of money. Let me not say that easily, but that quickly, right? Because it's still difficult. I mean, it's not easy. However, you know, you can quickly get to $1 million just like that, right? Like I said, you 4 deals away from having $1 million portfolio. And you know, if you live in bigger cities, it might only be 1 or 2 properties and you already got over $1 million portfolio. And then think about it like this, right? The way real estate is appreciating right now, let's say you have $1 million portfolio and prices are going up, let's say 10% every year.
Mm-hmm.
So every year, just by staying alive, you're gaining $100,000 of wealth
on the
properties, right? Just by being alive and breathing.
That's crazy.
You know? I mean, and that's literally how you build. That's what generational wealth really is that, you know, when you're making money for doing nothing, because appreciation, you don't have to do anything. It just happens, you know. I mean, it doesn't just happen, but it happens. Let me say that.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have tenants or whoever, you know, supporting the property, and it's just going up and up and up and up and up. And I mean, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So let's dive in. You feel me? Let's dive into the meat of it, right? So, like, I think some of the questions that people probably want to have is just like the process, right? Because you can talk all day. Like I used to hear people talk all day about, oh, it's easy, or oh, it's this, you got it done. I'm more of a hands-on. So like, I mean, I don't know how detailed or, you know, we want to be, but like, for Mo, I guess this question is for you. Like the process, what was the process like from start to finish for you?
What started the whole process from us doing the deal?
Finding from long nights of finding the property, multiple properties, from the call in, just from everything.
I mean, the minute we got on this deal, I knew it wasn't going to be a fast deal. I was prepared for it, but it is like a mental fitness that you're going to get with real estate. And it's like, you're going to play gymnastics what of course, with real estate. I feel like I was only prepared for what people showed me, but what really goes on behind closed doors, like Mr. Daniel was saying, make sure you got a lender, make sure you have 2-3 lenders on because this lender might flake on you, which what happened. We almost lost this crib just because somebody was taking too long. So just making sure you have always backups to everything, making sure that you literally always keep paperwork of everything, because one person may not need one thing, but another person may need something else. So just having your paperwork in line. And I feel like the biggest thing that that's so essential in real estate is patience. Like you have to be patient, because you could be sitting on a gold mine and you never not know, but you're so impatient, you might make an error in just your steps. So I feel like patience and just evaluating what you really want to do. Everything happens for a reason. Just look at every other thing around it. Like, is the house being renovated on other streets? Is gentrification going on? So this thing just to take on, when you're really thinking about it, like, am I really ready for this? But I do feel like it's a great opportunity for anybody jumping in. I feel like everybody should just take that risk. It's not really nothing bad. Like Mr. Daniel said, you could make a ton of cash from it.
Yeah, I agree.
How did you feel though about the deal, about everything going on?
For me,
Yeah, about your take.
man, I'm not gonna lie. These last 3 months was fun to me. Like, this was probably the best experience that I ever had, because they say it's like anything in life. When you learn something, man, and like, it's like once you learn your name, it like anything, right? So I think I really, from start to finish, learned the process, understand it. But yeah, I mean, it was hard times. Like, I called these guys on the screen, like, man, what do you think? Like, you think this really gonna happen? Like, Chris is like, man, hey, just listen, patience. I've been here before, and that's something you can't.
Too many times.
Hey, that's something you can't Google or YouTube, right? That's experience, and Chris has that. So I mean, from February, well, Mo and I was doing this from December, but from February, I'll say to now, just the experience was fun for me. Learning about appraisals and how they work and how expensive they are, depending on who you deal with. We actually had a unique opportunity of, speaking with the actual seller, and building that relationship. So things of that nature it was a great experience for me, man. So one advice, okay, well, actually, Mo, I'll let you go. I know we'll probably end with some advice, but.
Ms. Daniels, do you have anything else to say before we go into talking about anything else?
Oh, you talking about just about the process?
Yeah, about the process, how your take was on it.
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. I mean, I kind of so it was interesting because with this particular property, every property has a story. So with this particular property, I knew the owner. So I was never really worried because I knew I could always pull kind of like a personal favor card. I didn't want to though, because what I wanted, in this particular instance, right? I really wanted you guys to learn, and I wanted you to, go through the process. So I didn't want to just use my personal connection and make it happen. Like, I could just call them like, hey man, come on, but I didn't want to do that. So I knew it was never going to fall through. And I knew if it was getting to that point, we could have pulled it back, but so I was never worried. But, it was a really interesting deal because it's just such a unique property. Right. And that's why I really, really, really wanted you guys to work on this property, because I knew it was going to have some of these issues. Because it's what we call a non-conforming property, meaning that it's so different. There's no other properties around like that. And when you have properties like that, it brings up things like the appraisal issue, like the repair issue, like the comparable sale issues, other things that we talked about. So you really got a chance to learn a lot. So the funny thing is, like, when you do another deal, it'll be so simple and so easy. You'll be like, what, that's it? Yeah. Like, after you've gone through this, you'll be like, wait a minute, is that easy? Like the other deal, you see how fast that one I did on the one on Holton Street, it just went in like 12 days, it was done, but this one took several months. But that's just how it is. So I think seeing the dynamic nature of real estate and how things can go right, things can go wrong. I'm glad you guys didn't have to see some of what I've seen. I'll tell y'all some stories later about some bad things I've had to deal with, where I did not have personal connections, and I've had to suffer. So yeah, it was a good experience though. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to even moving forward, to the next step with the property.
Most definitely. And I was just gonna add, like, to that, like you mentioned, the story. I think everything happens for a reason. I'm a big believer in that. But Mo, I don't know about you, but that was beautiful to see. Well, not beautiful when the lender flaked, but beautiful to see how the relationship, stayed strong, and there was that end goal in mind. And I think, to Chris' point, like, each property from henceforth can't get much worse than that. I mean, it could, but the likelihood, and so just knowing that you went through that fire essentially, will help us in the long run.
Yeah. And I think, we'll probably go into more detail about this maybe on another episode, but I think what you guys saw and what you'll see is a difference between lenders, right? When you're dealing with a direct lender versus lenders who outsource their loans, right? So direct lenders, meaning that they're making the decisions in-house. So they already have their underwriting criteria versus a lender who's shopping for someone to buy your loan or to fund your loan. And that's what went wrong with the first loan, was that the person was a broker, not a direct lender. And like I said, we'll get into that, more in detail as we get more specific in the process. Brokers are good sometimes. And so it's not anything bad about brokers. I got a lot of friends who are brokers. That's a great business. However, direct lenders are able to make more decisive decisions. So with properties in these type of scenarios, is better to deal with direct lenders, in my opinion.
That makes sense. So why do you think the real estate market is going up?
Well, I mean, it's basic supply and demand. I mean, there's a shortage of houses. So if you just look at fundamentally, there are not enough houses for people who want to buy them, right? And on top of that, there's not enough houses in desirable neighborhoods for people who want to buy them. That's really the main thing. So as long as the prices, as long as it's cheaper, as long as you can't build enough houses fast enough to keep up with the demand. So until they can catch up with being able to build houses fast enough to keep up with the demand, the prices of real estate is going to keep going up. So I've been making this argument for a long time, and people don't like this, but in my opinion, it's true. I feel like real estate has been underpriced for a long time in most of the country. I mean, if you think about it like this, right? Let's just give a hypothetical situation. We'll use Tallahassee, right? So let's just say someone has a $300,000 house, or let's say $300,000 house, right? So that means their payment is about $2,000 a month, right? The typical person who's living in that house in a city like Tallahassee are probably maybe two professors, a doctor and a lawyer, some professional people, right? Who make $10,000-$15,000 a month combined. So $2,000, that's nothing, I mean, really, that's nothing, right? So when you look at it like this, right? For when the price of a property goes up $100,000, that's only an extra $1,000 a month in a payment. All right. So I know that sounds, so for some people like only 1,000, but for working people who have money, they can afford another 1,000 because $1,000 is nothing to someone who works and has a lot of money. Yeah. Right. So the house being 400,000 instead of 300,000 is not disqualifying people. So until we get to that threshold where people can no longer afford the houses, that's when it's going to come back down, right? That's how supply and demand actually really works, right? When people are no longer willing to pay that price, or able to pay that price, as long as people are willing and able, I mean, it's going to keep going up.
They don't make more land.
They can't. They're not, and they can't do it fast enough because you got a lot of combinations. You got environmental activists, right, who don't want you to keep, tearing down the forest to build more houses, which I understand. A lot of areas again, I'll use Tallahassee as an example. It wasn't really planned to be this big of a city. So, it's not planned for this many people. So there's not enough houses for everybody. So it's when the population grows, if the population continues to grow, the price of houses is going to shoot through the roof, like you see in Tampa, Miami, down south. I mean, other places like that.
It's definitely something for people to look at. I don't think people really look at what's going on in real estate. Houses have only been going up in prices for the last 10, 20 years. And I don't know if people want to, I think people are going to get to a point where they see it's too expensive. Now it's like, damn, I should have bought it when I was younger. And now it's like, it's going to be that discussion.
Yeah. I mean, it's always one of those things. I tell people, it's only been a few times in history where real estate went down. Generally speaking, your best bet is just to buy it and wait. Because 9 times out of 10 is going up that way. I mean, there's been a few times it went down, but even when it went down, it came back up. So it wasn't like it permanently came down. It went down temporarily because there was a surplus, and then that surplus got ate up, and then it went right back up. So it took a couple years, but it went back up.
So if the housing market crashed, does that affect the rent?
Rent?
Yeah.
Not really. So when the market crashes, right? And this is always an interesting discussion. The safest thing to do is have rental properties,
Right.
right? Back when the market was really down, all I did was just buy houses and rent them out, because it wasn't really that much of a market to resell. People weren't like flipping houses and stuff like that. They were just buying them and holding on to them. Because rents never go down. Like, they don't. Like, it's rare for rents to ever go down. Housing prices go down, but rents pretty much stay steady.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I never knew. I thought that had something to do with the renting being messed up. But yeah,
No, man. Rent stays steady. For the most part. I mean, if you look at the rent in Tallahassee, I mean, you guys probably see this from being, involved in housing and whatnot. It's going up high.
Yeah.
Very, very high. You know what I'm saying? Like, rent is getting very expensive in the midst of all the craziness going on with COVID and whatnot. Rent is very high because people want to get back. People lost a lot of money last year, so people trying to get back that money they lost. And the best way to do it is get it in rent.
In college,
and government pumped out all that money, that cash anyways to consumers. So everyone gonna expect the rent to raise.
Everybody want to cut.
Everybody want to cut. I feel like what's going to really happen is people are going to start raising prices crazy around every city around like the country just to balance that out, because they're reopening a lot of places now. Like college about to be open, homecoming, football games. You see the NBA game full now, so I feel like in a year or two, it's gonna be a huge big. You're gonna see who's been working, who's been slacking off during the break. You're gonna see it because like the whole market was made for us to just sit back. Whole COVID was just us making us so comfortable. People was getting fed stimulus checks, and now it's like people blowing through the checks, but nobody ever thought it was gonna reopen up. So that's a
good. I would say that's a good leeway into a conversation about inflation, but I guess we'll talk about that another time. My take on that is I believe it's possible that it'll take place in the next year or two. But
real, man, I feel like that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, but see, and that's why, when you look at inflation, that's why it's important to invest, because if your cash is getting less valuable, however, your property is getting more valuable.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of me having $100,000 in a bank account, I'd rather have $100,000 property, because that property is going up in value while the value of my cash is going down. Right. So if I have $100,000 parked in Bank of America right now, this is going down. If I have $100,000 parked in a property, it's going up. Yeah. So now my $100,000 will be worth 120, 130, whatever, by the end of next year. And then my $100,000 that's in Bank of America is going down. So, it's just really interesting to see how that works.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's like 10 minutes left, but so I'm just gonna try to ask this one last question. I know somebody had asked me on Twitter. I only got a few questions, but we're just still gonna hit everybody question.
And if we can't get it to this time, we'll get to it next episode.
So yeah, so he was like he's stuck on who to contact to get an investment property. I have a bit amount of money saved up. I live in Kansas City, but I'm trying to get a property. What's my first step?
So he's saying who to contact to try to get a property, or to try to find a property?
Yes. He was like, how do I contact how to get investment property? And I live in Kansas City and I have a bit of cash saved up. So I'm guessing that he wants to know the initial steps.
Yeah. So the first thing is to find a deal, or find something that could possibly be a deal. So in order to do that, you have to understand the market. So, if houses are normally 100,000 and you find one for 60,000 or, something like that, you say, okay, that's a deal, right? So you have to find a deal. And then once you find a deal, you have to get the property under control. And then, you go ahead and go about closing on it. So, that's really the first step, is to find a deal. You got to go out and find a deal. So some people go online and look on the MLS. Some people drive around and look for properties. Some people ask friends. I mean, there's all of the above are what you should do. Yeah. You could also get with a real estate agent and ask them as well.
Okay. So what him living in Kansas City, how could he better, do research? Do he, of course, ask the real estate agent, or what questions will he be asking a real estate agent
Yeah. So what he should have is a criteria. So what price point are you looking to buy in? What type of property are you looking? You should have a type. What am I looking for? And then once you know what you're looking for, then it's easy to find it. But you can't find something if you don't know what you're looking for. So if you say I'm looking for a duplex that's under $100,000 in this type of neighborhood, okay, bam, that's a reasonable criteria. Now you can start searching, for something like that. But you have to narrow it down because there's millions of houses. So you have a specific criteria that you're looking for, a certain price point, certain neighborhood, and then you can get a real estate agent or you can do it yourself. Go look for properties in those areas.
Okay. So I know I have a question as well. So I feel like, what do you think is the best thing for someone who is on edge about doing real estate? Like what do you think is the final, what do you think is the question they should be asking themselves if they're on edge, like 50-50 with real estate?
Right. I mean, the biggest thing is, are you committed to it? Because it can be difficult. It's not a fast thing. Real estate is a slower business. So if you're a person who needs like constant money coming back and forth, then real estate's not that good for you. Do you understand property? You have to understand property somewhat to be involved in real estate. So if it's something that's very confusing to you that you don't really like to deal with, then it may or may not be for you. So, real estate is a very niche industry. It's a very good industry, but it's something that you have to understand well, and you have to understand how money flows in and out. Like it doesn't flow frequently; it flows like at most once a month, or sometimes once every 2 or 3 years when you sell a property. So it's a lot of it's slow. Like whereas with business, you might be making money every single day, or stocks or something you trading and everything's going up and down. So if you need that like constant like in and out of money, then real estate is not really for you. But if you need a little bit slower but more steady, then I would say real estate is for you.
Okay.
And I think that's the best answer to the listener. That's the best answer. I'm gonna give you the answer what I told myself, and I think it just helped. It went this way because one, God, and two, the right people in the right place. But you got to tell yourself, listen, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it, and everyone's not doing it, right? But I told myself is, why can't I do it? You know what I mean? And it's like, if you invest in anything else, why not investing in yourself with real estate? So you just kind of sit back and tell yourself, you won't know what it feels like. You won't know what the water feels like unless you actually step in the water. You understand what I'm saying? So I think we all stepped in the water at one place or one particular time in our life. And it's just, if you're about that, like, just do it, just try it.
That's all really do it. But yeah, that's really all my 2 piece. I do want to say, if anybody is getting into real estate, just make sure you do know it's very a lucrative business when you do put your work and time in. But I do feel like it's just a good start, just how Mr. Daniels referred to it as starting generational wealth, just having that mark and just making sure you're good for life after that is a safe haven, is an asset. So I don't know if you guys have anything else before we close this, Zoom call out, podcast out.
Yeah, I mean, just look forward to more episodes. We're gonna get into a lot more detail. Real estate is not an easy business. It can be complex. So we'll have more episodes where we'll really break things down, kind of piece by piece. And if people have questions, feel free to send any of us a DM or a message so we can kind of answer them as we go along.
Yeah, for me, just super excited for this. I kind of wish I had something like this where people I know that look like me, right, and that think like me and talk like me. We had these conversations. So super excited, looking forward, to more to come.
Definitely appreciate you guys coming out. Also, their names, everybody tags, or I'm gonna tag each and everybody who's a speaker today in the comments. So just be sure to follow them. Other than that, we're good to go. So yeah, appreciate you guys for talking tonight.
Thank you.
All right.
Go Clippers.